Thanks to all the people who suggested Cream in the comments of my videos, and also a huge shout out to my new patrons Leon G and Sadie Alaka. When we think of the early days of hard rock and heavy metal, we might think of Led Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, Grand Funk Railroad, and of course Black Sabbath. But by turning the pages back even further, we might find who exactly preceded all of these legendary bands. Doing this leads us to a talented guitarist just after he quit an already successful blues band and instead finds himself meeting an established jazz group known as the Graham Bond Organization. Unfortunately enough, the band broke apart. Two of the members of the band, growing weary of the situation, decided to leave the ill-fated jazz act. However, being impressed with the young guitarist's skills, pitched the idea to him about forming an all-new project together, with Ginger Baker on drums, Jack Bruce on lead vocals and bass, and Eric Clapton on backing vocals and guitar. These gifted gentlemen not only formed one of the first known supergroups, but also pioneered the sound that became hard rock. We're of course talking about Cream. And to understand how they made this heavy hard rock sound, let's take a closer look at the three elements that made this band so influential. Now, sure enough, you could argue that the Kinks' You Really Got Me Now, or the Yardbirds' Happening 10 Years Time Ago, or the Beatles' Taxman were some of the first proto-hard rock songs, but few came close to make it sound anywhere near as heavy as Cream. Just listen to their first hit single, I Feel Free, released in December of 1966. That whining pitch that you can hear during the end of each guitar phrase is what is known as the woman tone. Listen to how Eric Clapton explains this tone.
Tell us what that is.
The woman tone is produced by using either the bass pickup, and in fact if you use both pickups you should take all the bass off on the tone control to turn it down to 1 or O. It's supposed to sound like this.
You can hear this sound being echoed throughout the boom of late 60s and 70s psychedelia and hard rock, from Jefferson Airplane's cover of Wooden Ships, to Traffic's Dear Mr. Fantasy, and to Guess Who's American Woman. With graffiti paint invading the streets of London, clamoring Clapton is God, there's no denying Eric's sheer powerful virtuosity in the guitar. And this power is perfectly demonstrated during the start of Cream's magnum opus, Disraeli Gears. Strange brew, killing what's inside of you. Based on the blues song Lottie Mama by Buddy Moss, Strange Brew is an irresistible concoction of moody, sensual blues and mellow psychedelic sways, all coming together through these hypnotic riffs of noisy, distorted bliss. The band executed this trademark sound with 100-watt Marshall heads and 4x12 amplifier cabinets on double stacks, along with Ginger Baker's double bass drums at almost full volume. Through a combination of sheer loudness and holding down notes, Clapton was able to produce a more distorted, delayed sound, which would obviously later inspire bands to experiment with heavy cacophony and amplification. But the new over-the-top equipment would have been worthless without the amazing collaboration between producer Felix Pappalardi and audio engineer Tom Dowd. That infectious, fuzzy riff screams an aggressive yet cool demeanor and style, which later inspired hard rock acts like the Stooges, MC5, and Led Zeppelin. While bands like the Beach Boys figured out how to manipulate the studio to become an instrument, the likes of Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton were figuring out the potentials of the guitar. Time. Time is everything, especially in music. Jazz musician Charles Mingus calls his concept of time as a rotary perception, where there's a constant metronomic time in your head. The key, however, is the ability to constantly move within the meter in your mind. And that's exactly what bassist Jack Bruce did. Singer Paul Jones once remarked that Jack's timing was so utterly perfect that he could play 7 or 9 extra notes, and the most important 4 would always be in exactly the right places. With a fine, well-rounded overdrive pedal, Jack Bruce's urgent bass playing has been described as energetic, emotive, exuberant, and always on time. Just listen to how Bruce's bass carries the guitar melody, riding on the descending bass line of the notes D, C, B, and B flat on the song Tales of Brave Ulysses. Also, notice how the song develops. Bruce reaches an ascending D minor line that drops from D to F and then goes back to G and B flat. Simple, sure, but for 1967, it was genius to come up with something as straightforward and slick as that. Paul McCartney would later use a similar progression in one of the Beatles songs, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. In Tales of Brave Ulysses, Bruce proves that Cream are not only contrapuntal, but also effortlessly flowing and melisonant. For example, just listen to how this descending progression in the song keeps you at the end of your seat.
With tales of brave Ulysses, how his naked ears were tortured by the sirens sweetly singing, for the sparkling waves are calling you to kiss the white lace land.
And then there's the song Badge.
And I'm thinking of the love that you laid on my table.
By now, you probably noticed the strongly melodic bass line. Bruce himself reflects that his goal was always to create a bass line where if you took away or changed one note, the whole song would collapse. Quote, "I tried to carve the part out of the music like a statue so that I knew it would last." Although it being Cream's most accessible pop song, which makes sense considering it was co-written by George Harrison, it still majestically blurs the line between the blues and hard rock through its soaring and crisp guitar riffs. I mean, just listen to this.
She cried away her life since she fell off the cradle.
Ginger Baker. Where to even begin? Not only is he considered as one of the best drummers ever, he's also an insanely interesting human being with a wild and adventurous life that we could dedicate a whole other video essay to. But everything boils down to one thing though, his love for music. Most notably, the extent he goes to pursue his passion for music. His drumming is described as a conversation between his feet and his hands, one playing different rhythms than the other, like a one-man orchestra. One of the best examples of Ginger's drumming is found on the epic White Room from the album Wheels on Fire. White Room has a rather ominous intro. Structured as a bolero with a pounding drum beat, it was originally planned to be played in 4/4, but instead performed in 5/4 after the insistence from Ginger.
The other one is White Room, the 5/4 bolero that makes it. Da, bum, 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 da. It wasn't written like that. Jack wrote it in 4/4. He now declares I wrote it in 5/4. I mean, hello.
In a white room with black curtains near the station.
Notice that he uses timbales for his drum fills during that moment to give out a suspensively primeval quality of his sound, with producer Felix Pappalardi in the background droning on a viola. A poetic and ambitious piece, White Room stand among one of the best of Cream for good reason. The trio sounds as big as a band of 4 or 5, all thanks to Ginger's drumming, guiding the song through its trippy flurry of wah-wah pedals and emotional dynamics. But what makes his drumming so exceptional and ahead of his contemporaries can be heard in Toad. Now, whether you heard about Cream or not, sometime, somewhere, you probably heard this guitar riff before. Coupled with other legendary riffs such as Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple and Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, Sunshine of Your Love became an instant hit and a staple of hard rock. But what makes Sunshine of Your Love so special, however, is the fact that it's essentially a culmination of the trio's talents. From Eric Clapton's guitar virtuosity to Jack Bruce's solid rhythmic timing and Ginger Baker's hypnotic hammering drums, each member contributes to their best of their abilities in order to deliver one of the best rock songs of all time. To expand on that, the woman tone on Clapton's blues-driven solo has been described as a balance between the sun and the moon, and it's one of the most well-known of its era. Just listen to that bluesy, psychedelic progression. But most importantly, it's Jack's bass riff that steals the show, creating one of the most memorable riffs in rock history. With its cool, dark demeanor rooted in blues, Sunshine of Your Love is basically a 12-bar blues song. However, interestingly, it's in 8/8 time rather than a typical 4/4. Jack's bass riff is basically an 8-beat riff, and the song builds around it. It just shows that even the small changes can make a big difference. Inspired by American Indian rhythms, Ginger Baker lays down a heavy tom-tom drum beat all throughout, driving the song to its unique composed shape. According to recording engineer Tom Dowd, it's distinctively unusual since it emphasizes beats 1 and 3, where the downbeat is the beat, as songs at the time and still today are driven on a 2 and 4 beat. Ginger, the composition process of Sunshine was, quote, an intensely personal experience that summed up all that was for him both magical and terrible about his time in Cream. At the time, there was nothing like Cream, whether it's their heavy approach to psychedelia, to their British blues-tinged grooves, to their Afro-jazz polyphonic rhythms. Cream were somewhat of an enigma in the 60s pop music. Cream created a bridge between sweet psychedelia and fuzzy, distorted guitars that essentially gave the blueprints to what would later become known as hard rock. And that's why Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker was and will always be the cream of the crop.
If Cream did not invent heavy metal, they certainly were part of a band of brothers that were very instrumental in facilitating it.
The birth of heavy metal should have been aborted.
Thanks again for watching, guys, and also a huge thanks to all my patrons. If it wasn't for you, I couldn't have put out as many videos as I currently do, so thanks again. Now, if you want to become a patron as well, then make sure you click the orange button on the screen right here. When you become a patron, you get the opportunity to vote for future video topics. You also get some awesome behind-the-scenes footage and even sneak peeks at videos that I'll publish weeks from now. So if you want to access that, then make sure you click the button right here, and I'll see you later.